We've been talking about the vortex so much that some are tired about it. I came to this seminar, paid all of this money, and all they said was, get in the vortex, get in the vortex, get in the vortex, get in the vortex. But we want you to understand that if your dominant intent is to move into the vortex no matter what, to move in and maintain as long as you can, move in and maintain as long as you can, move in and maintain as long as you can, that then what happens is the things that you want that you've already put there begin to occur. They begin to present themselves to you. But you can't let the need for those things to occur to be your motivation for getting in the vortex. You have to want to be in the vortex because nothing else is normal. You have to want to be in the vortex because you want to be joyful. And that's what we heard you say. We heard you say, I want to be in the vortex because I want to be in alignment with who I am and all that I am and all that I've expanded to. So recently we've been saying that you can use any excuse in the world to get in the vortex. And then once in the vortex, you can introduce something that's in your life. So in this case, it would be this situation. And it is likely, most likely, that from inside the vortex, when you turn your attention to an ex-wife and to potential imminent surgery, that the vortex is going to spit you right out because you just can't hold those images and remain vibrationally in alignment to the well-being that the vortex insists on. So you bring yourself back in whatever way you can. You find a way to maintain your stability inside the vortex, and you introduce the subject again. And usually again, the vortex will spit you out. So what it finally comes down to is, from inside the vortex, you will eventually find a way of looking at this that you will be able to maintain your balance inside the vortex, even though it's going on. Finally, that's what unconditional love will be for you. Rather than asking the surgery to go away, or a miracle to happen, or the doctors to change their mind, or to just not think about this 13-year-old anymore, which isn't going to happen. Rather than needing conditions to change so that you can be in the vortex, you figure out how you can be in the vortex given those conditions. We said something sort of like this at the beginning of the day. If you want to be in the vortex and there are peripheral people in your life that are just giving you a hard time, you could potentially just walk away from all of them and just focus and maintain your balance in the vortex, and law of attraction would just bring you another set of more compatible, more congenial people. But when the situation is to do with your daughter, you cannot just walk away. You have to find a way of focus willing yourself into alignment even on that subject. And you're wise enough to know that. That's what you said when you sat down. You said, I want to do some focus wheels. Just humor us for a minute and tell us, from as best you can, what your world looks like, or what you think it looks like from inside the vortex. When you are understanding the process of creating, when you remember who you are, when you tap back into that feeling of worthiness that you were born with, then you don't have to be patient about desires manifesting, because they manifest quickly. In fact, the way you intended for it to be, you said, the contrast will inspire me to the new idea, because whenever I know what I don't want, I always know more clearly what I do want. And once I know what I do want, I will just turn in the direction of that, find vibrational alignment with that desire, and it will be. So you didn't come into your physical body planning on taking a long time to create anything. You didn't plan on struggling and suffering. You planned on choosing and focusing. But as you come into your physical experience, many people, even though they choose what they do want, you could hear it with their words. I don't want that. I do want this. I don't want to be sick. I do want to be well. I don't want to have a shortage of money. I don't want to be tight with money. I don't want to be deprived of things I want to do. I do want to have plenty of money. I do want to be able to make choices of what I want to do freely. I know what I don't want. I don't want confusion. I know what I do want. I do want clarity. In other words, you hear people all the time describing what they don't want, what they do want. And when you're in despair, when you're feeling powerless, and the vortex is calling you, even though you can't consciously hear it, in other words, the emotional scale is despair or disempowerment and fear down there at the furthest end. And then anger or revenge, anger, is a step closer to the vortex. And then frustration and overwhelmment is a step closer to the vortex. So her vortex is calling her. We would far rather see her in anger than in fear or despair. It's really a step in the right direction. But what happens with most people, because they've been trained that anger is inappropriate, because people don't like angry people to be around them. They'd rather you're depressed. You're less trouble when you're depressed.
Right.
When you are angry, you're on the way. And if we were counseling her, we'd say, good for you. You're taking some of your power back. When you feel angry, at least you're focusing, and at least you're making your claim to what you do want. And if she could just get into the vicinity of hope, the vortex would take her in and she would recover. But the medical community wants to say, oh, there are some things to which there is no recovery. And we say, there is nothing to which there is no recovery. But if you convince people of that, then they'll be over there in despair, and then for sure there's no recovery, because recovery is in the vortex. You got to give them hope, or they don't have a prayer of recovery, you see.
Yeah.
So when you give someone the death sentence or diagnosis of something, when you say this is a degenerative disease and it's just going to get worse and worse and worse, it puts her in despair. She moves into anger, and then people say, oh, you shouldn't be angry. It's not godly to be angry. It's not good for you to be angry. So she moves back to despair. Despair, anger, despair, anger, despair, anger, despair, anger, despair, anger. We'd like her to go despair, anger, a little less anger, frustration, overwhelmment, hopefulness, belief, and then she's back on her feet.
Right.
Really, we're not kidding you. Everything that anyone lives is nothing more than an indication of vibration. But you see, here's the thing we've been telling doctors and scientists for a while. If you will, instead of looking for cures, which is like a Band-Aid, if you would stop looking for cures and start looking for vibrational causes, when someone has a vibrational indicator, like a diagnosis, whether you call it Alzheimer's or MS or whatever you call it, how the person feels while they've got that, now that it's a manifestation, is how they were feeling before they got that. That's just an exclamation point on how they've been feeling.
Right.
Every single time. No exceptions, you see. So you are the creator of your own reality. Your emotions indicate whether you are in sync with who you really are or not. And if you've got negative emotion and you don't recognize that it is guidance calling you toward better feeling thoughts, so you don't look for better feeling thoughts, don't worry, it will get bigger. And if you still don't do something to clean it up, don't worry, it will get bigger. It will get bigger, because law of attraction is responding to the vibration of you. And so here it is. If the vibration of you is two opposing points, and each of them are getting bigger, what's the result for you? More stress on your vibrational experience and more stress on your physical apparatus. All illness, every illness, no exception, is that. Every single time, you see.
Yeah.
We were talking about expectation earlier. Once something is manifested and you're observing it, it's hard not to notice it.
Yeah.
And most people offer almost all of their vibration in response to what they are observing. So when you have a physical condition, it gets your attention because you take your body almost everywhere you go. So as you're observing how you feel in your body, how you feel, then your expectation just sort of gets into that rut, that expectation. But the thing that is so interesting is every time that happens, you expand more. You just can't hurt a little without expanding. Do you know that this vortex of creation, this vibrational escrow of someone like your cousin, is healthier than almost anyone you know? Because in her despair and in her feeling of victimhood, in her deep resentment, she keeps launching these rockets of what she really wants, but then holding herself in opposition to them. So if we were visiting with her, we would not listen to her stories of victim. We would say, you got to cut that out. And she would not like it. And she would say, well, this is just what's happening with me. And we would say, but it doesn't have to happen that way. You could tell a different story. And she would say, well, telling a different story is sort of a metaphysical, airy-fairy, Pollyanna, ridiculous thing to do. Because here I am living this experience, and I don't see what power saying it different than it is would bring. And we would say, saying it different than it is would focus you in the direction of what you want. And if you could consistently focus yourself in the direction of what you want instead of in the direction of what you don't want, you would begin to offer a consistent, different vibration.
Right.
And when you offer a different vibration, your vibrational indicators, which is your physical condition or whatever you're living, would change. It is certain. It is certain. Every situation can be resolved. Every problem can find a solution. But here's the big thing that you'd have to get across. The vibration of a problem and the vibration of a solution are very different vibrations. The vibration of a question and the vibration of an answer are very different vibrations. So if you're beating the drum of the problem, you cannot find the solution. You have to beat the drum of the solution. And many people would say, well, why would I do that when this is what I'm living? And we say, well, for one thing, you'd feel better. For another thing, you'd feel better. For another thing, you'd feel better. For another thing, you'd feel better. In other words, a woman was hurting from arthritis, and she said, how can I think positive thoughts when I'm in pain? And we said, you can have pain and have hope, or you can have pain and have despair or fear. And the vibrational difference between hope and despair is the difference between recovery or not, you see. But a lot of people that have practiced themselves into a vibration can't hear that. They are sort of in a rut.
Yeah.
Esther said to Jerry one day, I think instead of this flimsy emotion when I'm out of the vortex, that a tooth should just fall out. And I don't think more than 2 or 3 would fall out, and I'd clean up my thoughts if the stakes were higher. And so it would seem that when people have disintegrating bodies, that they would start wanting to clean up their vibration more. And if they understood that the condition of their body is related to this gap between who they're being and who they really are, we think more people would. So we are amplifying the word expectation today in a stronger way than usual. Because as we speak of the 3-step process of creation, the first step is ask, and life causes you to do that. So when breakfast doesn't come the way they want it, they ask and ask and ask and ask and ask. We're not kidding. They've been asking and asking and asking and asking. This is a 5-star hotel, they say occasionally. They should know better. They're asking and asking and asking and asking. Step 2 is source answers. Source answers. Because when you ask, a vibrational reality begins to form, and the non-physical part of you, the source, or that which you call God, your inner being, actualize around that vibrational request. It's lined up for you. Step 3 is you must become a vibrational match to what you're asking for. So that's where that expectation comes. I've asked for it, but what do I really expect? If I have a plan B and a plan C and a plan D, doesn't that mean I don't really expect plan A to work the way I wanted it to? Isn't that what it means? If I'm always saving for a rainy day, if I'm looking for trouble and trying to prevent it, if I'm looking out ahead in order to... Esther carried a hanger in her car for years just in case someone needed her to help them get their car open. Because it was so much fun to help them get their car open. Until one day Jerry said, well, now we're up to about 3 a day. You might want to leave that hanger home. And so when you get into this place of expectation, your expectation really is what rules your world. Because even though life is causing you to ask, what has happened is causing you to expect. And if what has happened is causing you to expect less than what you want, You have to train yourself. Creation is about focus, and focus is about being deliberate. And focus with your guidance system awareness is the best creating that can take place.